In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. We want to talk about politeness and the related concepts under the theory of politeness. We are on page 44. We are going to begin our job today like this. Now, you are already familiar with the politeness theory in my previous lectures in your, linguistics or general linguistics that we had together. Similarly, we want to continue with the discussion today in this book because it is highly related to the topic, and I'm going to go close the door for you. Okay, now, what is meant by the theory of politeness in linguistics? First of all, we have to know that there are two types of politeness. Well, number one is politeness as rules of behavior. Number two, politeness as linguistic expressions. Well, we have to know that we are not doing sociology, we are doing language, we are doing linguistics. So we are going to look at the second one as linguistic expressions. It means that when we use words and we are polite. Okay, but in order to distinguish between the two, I will give you the examples of the two. On page 44, the book says in Pragmatics, line 1, we talk of politeness. When we talk of politeness, we do not refer to the social rules of behavior. This is, in fact, something done in the sociology. Well, it is not done with the use of, let's say, language. It is not for the students of languages like English, like other languages. Anyway, and examples of politeness as, in fact, rules of behavior are like this, such as, line 2, letting people go first through the door. When there is something like the door, especially in Islamic cultures, well, first of all, the greater people go, and after that, the younger people and less older people go through the door. Okay, so letting people go first through a door is something like the rule of behavior, not a rule of language. Okay. Or I'm going to say, wiping your mouth on the serviette rather than on the back of your hand. Okay? Well, this means it is an example of social rule of behavior. Okay? So we are not considered these as linguistic. Okay? Well, going to page 45, there are examples to show that there are examples of linguistic behavior. For example, maybe some of you are familiar with Margaret Thatcher, page 44, who was the Prime Minister of Great Britain, Prime Minister of England and Britain. So Margaret Thatcher, she wanted to be, in fact, elected as the Prime Minister of her country. So she did something like this, line 1 of page 45. I'm beginning to feel like a clippy. I'm beginning to feel like a person who cuts, clips the tickets. Okay, when you go to a bus, there's something like a ticket for you, and they actually clip it. Okay, it's like this. So this is a language behavior by Margaret Thatcher. And she pretends to say that she loves the person who is in fact a bus conductor by saying who are doing a wonderful job, line 3 of page 45. This is an example of politeness by Margaret Thatcher on page 45 and 44. Okay, so she wanted to be elected. Because she wanted to be elected, she goes to the public. She goes to, in fact, different people. This time she goes to the buses and pretends that she is like a Clippy. Okay, in fact, doing something like that. So this is politeness in language. Now we want to talk about politeness. A relevant feature of politeness, you remember, is the face that we talked about earlier 2 semesters ago. Okay, when we talked of linguistic, general linguistics. Okay, the last, in fact, lectures of your general linguistics. We are going to come back to politeness and face. But we are going to continue and go further. We are not going to stop with those, in fact, kinds of lectures that we had there. So, related to politeness is the theory of face. It means that, look at me, you want to have a good, in fact, self-image in the society using your language. Okay, so this is politeness and things like that. So let us go to page 45 and talk about politeness and face. Well, Brown and Levinson, 1987, analyzed politeness and said that it is, in order to enter into a social relationship, we have to acknowledge and show an awareness of face, wajh, okay? Face. Of course, this is not the physical face. It is something behind this physical face, and it is more, in fact, like a kind of something inside what is there. The self-public image, the sense of self, or of the people that we address. We are going to talk to others and we are going to show, in fact, face, both for ourselves and for others who are, in fact, we are addressing. So line 3, page 45, under politeness and face, the book says, they said that it is a universal characteristic across cultures. Brown and Levinson said that it is a characteristic, it is something that all cultures have. That the speakers should respect each other's expectations regarding self-image. I expect you to in fact understand that I am important. And at the same time, I have to think that you as a listener to me are important to me. Okay? This is a kind of mutual, in fact, respect of each other. Okay? And avoid face-threatening or FTAs, face-threatening acts or FTAs. Okay? So we are talking about politeness and face, and as we already talked about it, there are 2 types of, in fact, faces. Positive face and negative face. This is only a review before we go to the new discussion. Well, what is a positive face? What is a negative face? Let us see. When line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, line 6 of this discussion, under politeness and face, we have when FTAs are unavoidable. Okay? Speakers can redress the threat with a negative face. They change it to the negative face. Okay? Which does not mean being impolite. Okay? That respects the hearer's negative politeness. Okay? So negative face is in fact the same as, or in fact is related to the negative politeness. Negative face related to negative politeness. Okay? So negative face means the face that you have in order to show something that belongs to, in fact, your territory. Okay? Related to it, it is the politeness that you are supposed to be polite in this negative way. So, what is a negative face? Well, the negative face is defined like this: the need to be independent, have freedom of action, and not imposed by others. Okay? So if you say something, if you show something in your language that you need to be independent, you have freedom of action and not imposed by others, you don't want to be imposed by others, no imposition, it means that you have got a negative face. Okay? So when you say, thank you very much, no, thank you very much, it means that you are doing something to show that you are self-independent. You don't need the help of others. Okay? So simply say no thank you to, in fact, something that your friend could come to say. Or line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Line 9 says, or they can redress the FTA with positive politeness that attends the positive face, the need to be accepted and liked by others. So all of you have got friends. You show positive politeness to your friends. Some of you are teachers. So you show some sort of positive face to your, in fact, students. Why? When you say that, for example, I am a good teacher, in your actually in your behavior, language behavior, you show that you are a good teacher. So you say, well, I know everything. If you want to, in fact, have a good grade, if you want to improve, well, I am at your service, do this, do that, and the exam is gonna be very easy for you. These are all examples of positive politeness by a teacher like some of you. So, FTAs, I'm just repeating, with positive politeness that attends the positive face, which is the need to be accepted and liked by others, number 1, treated as a member of a group. So, all of you have got different types of groups. Sometimes we have, and even the groups that we have in WhatsApp, in Telegram, etc., etc. When there is something like this, so as a member of the group, you have to be very, in fact, polite to others, and others have to be polite to you. And if you are, in fact, a manager, you have to be, in fact, careful about all people under you. Okay. So this is positive face, which regards positive politeness. Okay? And to know one's wants and to know one's wants are shared by others. Well, in order for us to understand the two types of, in fact, politeness, we have to give one example for you. Before that, let us see there are two types of, in fact, politeness. One is on page 45 under the name of off record, page 45, off record. And on page 46 we have another one called just wait. There's another one off record. Yes, off record and on record on page 46. Okay, let us begin with one good example. Page 45 talks about line 2 of the, in fact, paragraph beginning with there are many ways of achieving one's goals. Okay, line 2 says, suppose that you are in a resource center. Resource center. Sometimes it is pronounced as resource center. When you go to a university, actually there is a resource center which actually helps you with computers, and you go actually do something like this in order to, in fact, find, for example, a good source, or in fact talk to a person, etc. Talk to, in fact, a professor, or ask a question from the professor. There are computers for you to help. This center is called a resource center, line 2 of this paragraph. Let us imagine that you are in a resource center, trying to find a particular website on the computer, okay? But since you are having no luck, you would like one of your fellow students to help you. You are in a resource center. You want to receive help. You want to have help. You want to find a website. You cannot find it. You want to ask a friend of yours, well, there in the resource center, to help you. Let us see when it is going to be off record, page 45, and on record. Well, off record. On record, on the other hand, you can say something like line 1. Well, line 1 says something like this, and it continues like that. You are then faced with a choice to do the FTA on record or off record. There are two types. Okay? If you do it off record, you ask for help indirectly. Remember, off record means indirectly, number 1. Because off record means unofficial, not public, or indirectly. Okay, let us see how I can do something like this in a resource center indirectly. And say in a voice loud enough for your neighbors to hear. You're doing something like this with your computer, okay? In a resource center. You need the help of others. You don't want, in fact, considered to be impolite. You say something like this, loudly you say something like this. Yes, line 3. You say something like this. I wonder where on earth that website is. You are actually following like this in order to find the website. But at the same time, you say something loud enough for somebody else to your right, or to your left, or to your right to understand. Maybe they are going to help you, okay? So you say, I wonder where on earth that website is. I wish I could remember the address. You say it indirectly, saying that you don't know the address. So Maybe somebody is going to help you. Maybe he or she is going to, in fact, forget about it. Maybe she doesn't like you. She doesn't have time to help you. He doesn't have time to help you. Something like this. Okay, so this is off record. Why? Because you don't ask somebody like this, please help me. Please help me. Please help me is on record. But when you say something indirectly like this, you say, I wonder where on earth that website is. I wish I could remember that the address. You are actually doing something like indirectly. Okay, so it is one example of off record. Okay, so it is considered to be an off record is considered to be an indirect speech act. You remember indirect speech act we talked about? We talked about indirect speech act. So when you're doing something like politeness, you are doing something again like an indirect speech act. They are interrelated to each other. Okay? So you have to go to Unit A3, Speech Acts, in order to find, in which you are using declarative representative functioning as a question to help yourself. Okay? Now consider this line. Line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Instead of that sentence that I began, I wonder where that on earth that website is. I wish I could remember the address. So instead of this sentence, suppose you say something like this. Line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Or 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. Help me find where on earth that website is. This is direct. There is no choice for the person to do something else. She or he has to help you, and help you. But when you say, I wonder where on earth that website is, I wish I could remember the address, maybe they are going to help you, maybe they are not going to help you. It depends on them. So you are indirect. Using this book's terminology and others' books' terminology, you are off record. Okay? So this is almost the end of page 45, and I'm gonna continue with a new page with a new, in fact, voice later on.